Welcome to another edition of the Willy Bragg Show Saturday Night Feature. Here on Saturday night, usually I do this around 9 o'clock. Sometimes there's a little delay and things happen. So anyway, this will probably be a little quicker show, probably about an hour instead of the usual 2 hours, due to I have to go to work this evening. Things happen, Memorial Day weekend and all that. So suffice to say, y'all know I work graveyard shift. So let me just start by saying that this is a Saturday night feature from KRTD Media, where the Willy Bragg Show and KRTD Media work in partnership to promote each other within independent social media to try to help each other out, because we are all shadow banned within social media. So, and especially sure, independent content maker. So I promote them while they promote me, and this is how this whole thing works. So anyway, be sure to, when you go watch this video, be sure to hit your like on YouTube on my show, and hit the like button, hit the notification bell, and subscribe button for YouTube. Hit the tabs for Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter, all that. Follow me in those platforms. Same thing with KRTD Media. Follow them on all the appropriate platforms they're on. And, follow them. Well, I'm not promoting them on YouTube for the time being. There's I will in a few weeks. I will, but do follow them on YouTube. Follow them on Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, and all the other platforms they're on. And that way, we can keep this presence of independent voices and muckraking alive and well to counter the corporate media narrative. So there is that. So let's get to the topic at hand. I want to talk about, and I apologize for butchering the word, Myrotvorets. And that's probably the best way to describe, to pronounce the word. Myrotvorets is a Ukrainian word that means peacemaker. And it's really an ironic thing. And I guess I can use a little foul language because I'm not monetized currently, and I'm not on the YouTube thing for KRTD Media at the moment. So it's really fucked up that it will be called peacemaker, because Myrotvorets is basically, for all intents and purposes, it is a kill list it's a Ukrainian kill list, basically, and is directed at people who are critical of the proxy war backed by the U.S. and NATO behalf of the Ukraine, in the Ukraine, especially since last year. The website was launched on December 15th, 2014. And for what I understand, it's hosted in Langley, Virginia. You should go on their website, and if you go on their website, you'll see that it's hosted in Langley, Virginia, which I have all kinds of things to say about that. Because I mean, to have a website like that hosted in this country, here in the United States, man, I just think that's really, really fucked up. Because I mean, what other word can I describe it? I mean, to do that, considering what they do. So here is the website, and I'll be able to show it right there. I'm not going to scroll it down too far down, because there are some grotesque images on the website that I think could get flagged. And so just go ahead and take a look for yourself. Look it up. All you have to do is look up Ukrainian kill lists, and you will see it right there, plain in view. So when you scroll down, it's really grotesque and all that, and it is basically it is a grotesque concept that it would be permissible here in the United States to host such a website. And I hope to God that's just a troll, that is just a troll, and that it's not being hosted here. But it looks like, for all intents and purposes, it is. So now, the kill list. It doesn't take much to be on the kill list if you're a high-profile person. All it takes is that ranges from anything to overtly supporting the Russians and overtly supporting Vladimir Putin's efforts to take over the Ukraine, all the way to just being a pacifist critical of war. I mean, and ranges anything and everything in between. So this is where we're at, people. And and I'm going to be mentioning some of the people who are on this kill list in this video commentary. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off right now with two people that were added to the kill list this past week. 3 Americans were added to the kill list this past week, and I will be talking about them as well as some of the others. And those 3 people, and 2 of them going to be mentioned here, and they include Aaron Mate and Anya Parampel, and I'm sorry for butchering her name, from the Gray Zone, and Jimmy Dore was also added to the kill list. I'll be discussing them as well as some of the others in a few moments, but we'll play a little bit of a snippet here from the Gray Zone, and I'll share some of my comments about it. So give me a moment here. Let's see. We'll get everything set up. Okay, yeah, all I have to do is get the screen ready, and here we go.
Okay, well, Aaron, moving right along, you're not popular in Kiev.
I'm not, no. Myself and
Or Kyiv,
another Gray Zone. Yes, Kyiv. Myself and another Gray Zone colleague, Anya Parpil, we just apparently got added to what's called the Ukraine kill list. This is a list maintained by, this comes from the, I haven't followed this too closely. This comes from the Ukrainian government, right? This list?
Yeah, I mean, the Ukrainian Interior Ministry supports this list. Someone who's listed as an advisor to the Ukrainian Interior Ministry, his name is Anton Gerashenko, and he's played a particularly pernicious role in the post-Maidan government ever since 2015, 2014, is an open supporter of this website, and he participates in the blacklisting, and he helps propagate, names. If someone gets added to it, he'll put it out on his own Telegram channels and the Interior Ministry's channels, and it definitely works with the Ukrainian SBU security services. Beyond that, Aaron, it's kind of a mystery. It lists Langley, Virginia as one of its locations in the upper right-hand corner of the site, but it's sort of a mystery who's behind this.
Yeah, well, that's right. Well, let's take a look. I mean, so both Anya and I don't know when this happened, but both Anya and I were recently added to it. I don't know why you didn't make it, Max. You must be feeling a little left out. But
I do. I mean, that was my first reaction.
Yeah, there's Anya.
They at least chose a decent photo of her.
Yeah, there it is. So there's Anya on the list. And who else is on this list? I know Roger Waters was on this.
Well, can we get yours up there?
Scott Ritter, yeah. Let's get mine as well. Let's see here. So that was Anya's, and this is mine. Yeah, there it is.
At Vistaprint, we can get your brand into your customers' hands or their heads.
Sorry about that, folks. Damn commercials.
Or their backs.
You know what's funny about mine is, okay, so
DC, your photo isn't as
yeah, well, my photo's not very flattering, but what's funny is
shot.
What's funny is they list all these little screenshots of purported statements of mine. What's funny is they take most of them from a Telegram channel that's in my name, but that's not even me. Like whoever's running my Telegram channel is a scammer. They take in my name and they take my tweets sometimes and they put out what I say. But sometimes they put in stuff I don't say in my name. So, and they also put up like ads for like whatever supplements and things I do not endorse. So yeah, they're using my Telegram channel. So sometimes these Telegram shots are stuff I put on Twitter, but sometimes they're not. So anyway, that's just a minor detail, but it's just kind of funny that their sourcing is not even so solid here. But that's of course not the most important fact of this. It's just the fact is they're putting our names on a list of people who purportedly they want to harm. Right? That's the point of this list, I imagine.
Yeah, that's that's the list's open intention.
Yeah.
And while I haven't wound up on the Myrotvorets so-called peacemaker list, which is one of the more disgusting front-facing aspects of a very fascistic Maidan regime in Kiev, I have wound up on a private dossier that was distributed to hundreds of journalists, media professionals, and activists by a Ukrainian government-backed group called Mulfar, which has been cited in the New York Times as an investigative and open-source intelligence outfit and is based in London. So it obviously has the blessing of the UK government. And what that contained was false claims, disinformation, claiming that basically Russia paid for my house, that I live in some kind of gigantic mansion and I'm living in a lap of luxury thanks to Putin. And then it doxed me, doxed all of my family members, doxed even their co-workers who have nothing to do with them or nothing to do with Ukraine or anything. Wow. And I believe provided a lot of as many personal details as possible. And, I'm not going to live in fear, but what was the intention behind that? I mean, what was the point of that? I had people.
And, as I said, this is from the Gray Zone and Max Blumenthal and Armante were discussing that earlier this week about it. And I meant to put kind of a comedic aside video on this, and I forgot to add it up here, but apparently the punk rock act in Russia, Pussy Riot, condemned Aaron Mate. And I used to tell people when I was accused of being pro-Putin that you can't accuse me of being pro-Putin because I support Pussy Riot. But in light of what they did to Aaron Mate, I no longer support Pussy Riot. I support their activism on combating the conservative attitudes, the reactionary attitudes within Russia, the anti-LGBTQ sentiment that goes on in the country. But and saying this and commemorate, getting prepped for Pride Month. But I do not support Pussy Riot condemning the Gray Zone or Aaron Mate, for what they do, and with the information I've gotten about Pussy Riot being pushed and promoted by the National Endowment of Democracy, a neocon think tank, people who hovers around people like John Bolton and George W. Bush and Dick Cheney. There's nothing even remotely punk rock about that. So, at this point, Pussy Riot can fuck off. So, but anyway, point I'm trying to make is, and Matt, it is kind of shocking that Max Blumenthal is not on the kill list yet. Don't want him to be on the. I don't want anybody to be on the kill list. Do not want anybody to be on the kill list. In fact, I'm, as a First Amendment absolutist, as you hear me say on my show all the time, and I consider myself a strident First Amendment absolutist. Even when it comes to speech, I find most objectionable speech that I find most objectionable speech that I absolutely detest and hate. I think people have a right to promote political ideology that I am disgusted by. However, what people do not have a right to do in the name of free speech is to threaten people, to intimidate, and to threaten violence against people. And I think that any person, no matter where you come from politically, any person of good faith, any good actor politically, no matter what side of the fence you come from, would agree to that notion. And so if there's a website that should be shut down in this world, I would call for shutting down Myrotvorets. They shut it down. Or it should not even be promoted in the United States. If we are promoting it, it should not be promoted. Funny that a lot of the people that, whether you're a liberal or conservative, where yeah, and unfortunately, it became very bipartisan in the last few years to hate on Julian Assange. A decade ago, it was pretty much almost straight down, cut and dry, for the most part. Where a lot of lefties were behind Julian Assange, and a lot of conservatives were pretty much against Julian Assange from day one. Exceptions existed. The corporate Democrats were pretty much against Julian Assange, like most Republicans were. And and on the right, if you consider them the right, you might find libertarians who were in solidarity with Julian Assange. You would find libertarians, shall I say, in solidarity with Julian Assange, and maybe even some paleo-conservative types, along with the socialists, social democrats, left liberal types, communists, tankies, what have you, the whole gamut of the left, and even some lukewarm liberals, Democrats who were basically slightly to the left of the Obama brand. Those types would be in support of Julian Assange, but because of Trump derangement syndrome and because of Hillary Clinton in 2016 and everything, everybody gotten nuts on both sides. On the Republican side, the Ben Shapiro types, very predictable and consistent, but predictable. That the John Bolton types and all that, they want to go and throw him in prison for 175 years. Under the Espionage Act, which is specifically targeted for Americans to violate. He's not American, and he didn't break any laws, but teaches their own, I guess, is their interpretation. They want to shut down Wikipedia, but Myrotvorets, it's okay. That's my point. That is my point right there. And so it should be shut down. And I do not think that the U.S. should be sending any money to the Ukraine in light of things like neo-Nazis within the government, within the military, the level of corruption that exists in the government. And I will make my position clear that it's not that I support the invasion of Russia going into the Ukraine. I've made this my position very clear time and time again, and people can interpret it any way they want. And if there's any NAFOs out there that wants to go get mad at me on Twitter, let them be mad at me on Twitter. But here's the thing. When the Soviet Union ceased to exist in 1991, I believe it was January 1st, 1992, it became officially the Russian Federation. I think that's how it was. It was still the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics until December 31st, 1991, by name. And the deal was kind of made with the West as the Cold War was ending, when the Berlin Wall came down and the Eastern Bloc became no longer really a thing. That what was formerly the Warsaw Pact nations would not join NATO after Germany reunited. The German Federal Republic and the German Democratic Republic. Communist East Germany and so-called capitalist West Germany. When they reunited, the promise that was made, it wasn't made necessarily by a treaty, but it was made by gentlemen agreements. It was made that there was not going to really there was going to put to save face on a defeated Russia, that there was not going to be any need to have these countries in NATO go any further, expanding further east. And I guessing starting with the Yugoslav war in the 1990s, and by the late Clinton years, and during the Bush years, during the Obama years, and the Trump years, up until the precedent here with Biden, you had one by one, all these countries started joining NATO one by one, by one, by one, by one. Now, there's a lot of things I could say about Putin. Now, my friend Jamar Jabari, who's a good guy, great show. He has a great podcast. He and I were talking about this, and we both agree. He's a little further left than I am, but he's a great guy, great talk show host, great podcast. And he and I were talking, and we both agreed that neither of us would vote for Putin if we lived in Russia. Neither of us. That would not be our choice if we lived in Russia. That would not be our choice if we went to the ballot box. So it's not that we're pro Putin, but we know that Russia was kind of pushed against the wall in a lot of ways. And look what happened in 2014. The CIA toppled the government in Ukraine and put in the people that's in there now, and neo-Nazis became normalized. I remember when this happened. And I'm going to get into this kill list in just a moment here. I just need to talk about this. This kill list that I'm about to talk about. What happened with the toppling, that it was on the mainstream news. It was mentioned all over the place about neo-Nazis in the government in the Ukraine. And people will worry, oh my God, there are some Nazis in there. And people will kind of worry about this sort of thing. And then life kind of went on, and we all kind of knew it. But then now when Russia went in to do their police action in the Ukraine, and they did this because of what happened in the Donbass region. For those that do not know what the Donbass region is, it's an area of the Ukraine of mostly ethnic Russians. And when the Ukraine government changed in 2014, there's been a systematic effort to ethnically cleanse the Donbass region of ethnic Russians. And that's partly the reason why. Now, I do think that maybe he has some aims other than to protect ethnic Russians, sure. But I think that there was partly out of that. And, especially if you're on the left, if we care about Palestinians being slaughtered by Israelis, shouldn't we also care about Russians being slaughtered by the Ukrainians? Shouldn't we, if we're going to care about what happens to people who are marginalized in certain parts of the world, shouldn't we also be consistent in that regard? That's all I'm basically saying. And so right now, what you're seeing right now is basically Russians being slaughtered by the Ukrainians. They have, and again, you want to go and talk about authoritarianism? Here's what I have to say about the authoritarianism. When you want to compare authoritarianism between Russia and the Ukraine. And on balance, there's less authoritarianism in Russia. I mean, Russia is still kind of a democratic country. Now, in the same way that most Eastern European countries are democratic. Now, some countries are more democratic than others, and that is true. But I mean, it's certainly not the most authoritarian country in the world. I mean, you put Russia next to Saudi Arabia, or you put Russia next to North Korea, or you put Russia next to whatever country you can imagine. It is not an authoritarian country, but it's more authoritarian than I would like it to be, sure. But it's not an authoritarian country by what most people would define as authoritarianism. Look what the Ukraine's done in the last few years. They have banned opposition media. They have banned collective bargaining. They have banned oppositional political parties. And I've said this before. They have an LGBTQ problem as far as oppression is concerned in Russia, but it's far worse in Ukraine, and it's the Eastern European thing as far as part of the culture. And and that's a problem that I wish that every one of them would correct, all these countries. The same thing in the Middle East too. But anyway, they have these problems in these countries. The Russian Orthodox Church been banned. You can go if you're if you're Ukrainian Orthodox, you can go and attend mass at a Ukrainian Orthodox church. But apparently, if you're a Russian Orthodox, you can't do it in a Russian Orthodox church. I mean, what kind of bullshit is that? And so, by all fair metrics of what it means to be a democracy versus authoritarianism, I'm sorry, Russia is by far more democratic in terms of what it means to be a democratic society than the Ukraine. Doesn't mean that I want Russia to go and invade, but at the same time, it's hard to go and to act like that they're like 100% on the side of good, referring to the Ukraine. They have a problem. And Volodymyr Zelensky receiving these billions from the United States to feed the coffers of our military industrial complex. They love that this is going on. The defense contractors, they love that this is going on. And so, and not only that, with regard to this whole thing that's going on over there, you also have the Zelensky government also making demands to the U.S. government to, and I've said this before and I'll say it again, making demands for the U.S. government to put certain people, to blacklist certain people, to blacklist Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky. And I said it myself. I'm not particularly keen on Senator Rand Paul on most issues. But on foreign policy is one of his better points. He's usually correct on foreign policy. That's why they don't like him, because he's a non-interventionist. Tulsi Gabbard, they want to go in. There's this notion among people, people ranging from Hillary Clinton all the way to Mitt Romney and your Liz Cheney types, that somehow Tulsi Gabbard is some agent of Russia, and she's some Russian asset. You have people like Glenn Greenwald, same thing. They're claiming that he is some kind of asset of the Russians or what have you. And so there you have the Zelensky government. You have the Zelensky government demanding for the U.S. to go and put these folks on a blacklist. That's our U.S. government right there doing this sort of thing. And so I just think it's absolutely detestable that this is going on. And then the First Lady, Olenska, I think that's her name. And we talked about the gray zone earlier. They had the Web Summit last year in Portugal. That and they pressure the Web Summit to disinvite the gray zone from attending the Web Summit. Nina Yankowicz, who was supposed to head the Disinformation Governance Board, in her case, she also part of this, Russia. And of course, she's Ukrainian, of Ukrainian heritage. Not that's not anything to hold against her, but she is extra motivated with the Russia phobia. And she tried to get the gray zone pulled off the internet, pulled off YouTube. So this is what we're dealing with here. This is what we're dealing with. So let's talk about this kill list. because that's what I want to talk. This is the meat and potatoes of what we need to talk about, because we need to talk about who's on this kill list and why they're on this kill list. So let me go ahead and we'll start with the first person on the kill list that probably maybe one of the most famous people in the world that's on the kill list right now. And he's celebrating his 100th birthday. And we know him by the name of Henry Kissinger. Now, Henry Kissinger, I do not like. Henry Kissinger is a war criminal. Henry Kissinger is responsible for almost 2 decades of fascism down in Chile. I mean, Henry Kissinger has blood on his hands. There was a lot of coups that he was kind of involved with, and he is one of the grandfathers of what I would call modern day neoconservatism. He just turned 100 today. And he's a total son of a bitch. He's an asshole. He's a horrible human being. He's buddies with Hillary Clinton's all you need to know. So think about him. Why is he on this kill list? Because the stop clock gets the right time twice a day. He understands that when you're dealing with a country with nuclear weapons, this is not a good situation to be in. And this is what happens right now with Henry Kissinger. I mean, with Russia. He realizes because he dealt with the Soviets. This guy's a seasoned Cold Warrior. And and with the ending of the Cold War, I think he realizes what we went through during those days. And he probably doesn't want to see the world go through that again. So maybe in your old age, you mellow with age and you develop some common sense, and maybe you're not as much of an asshole as you used to be. I don't know. Even though he's an asshole and he's an evil man for what he did in the past, I don't think anybody should be. I'm opposed to capital punishment. Apparently, Ukraine thinks that people who disagrees with the U.S. NATO narrative of this proxy war ought to be eliminated. And and who's the bad guy between Henry Kissinger and Myrotvorets? Between those two in that particular instance, Henry Kissinger is not the bad guy in this instance. I never thought I'd say that. He's a bad guy in all other instances, but not in that one. So let's go with the next person. Can we go with this next person? We will. All right. So let's see here. We'll go with we will go with. Give me a moment here. This is the way the screen yards. They don't have these things in the correct order when I have everything set up to show the graphs I need to have showed up. I don't know why. You know who Noam Chomsky is. The libertarian, socialist, anarchist ideologue here in the United States. He's always been opposed to war. And he's because he's an outspoken person, and you have Henry Kissinger coming from the right. Now you have Noam Chomsky coming from the left. And he's been placed on the kill list. I mean, Noam Chomsky, of all people, how in the world can anybody be here, high-minded individual could be angry at anything that Noam Chomsky will have to say? this is the world we're living in. So yeah, Noam Chomsky. Whoops, no, don't leave the site. Okay, yeah, that's what we're dealing with right there. With Noam Chomsky is on the kill list. So we'll go with the next person on this list here. And I'm not going to show you every person that's on the kill list, but I'm showing this to you to let you know how ridiculous it is that these people are on the kill list. Okay, Scott Ritter. I interviewed Scott Ritter a few months ago. It was a very good interview, and most people in my audience know who he is. Former UN weapons inspector, assistants to Norman Schwarzkopf in the first Gulf War, and he is a critic of the U.S. military-industrial complex, of the deep state, of U.S. interventionism around the world. He's seen it for himself, and he's been placed on the list. On this list, and this man has foreign policy experience like you can't believe. He was involved with the treaty between the U.S. and the Soviets, and he's allowed to discuss the treaty, the aspects of the treaty that was classified information at the time that was expired because Donald Trump wanted to prove to the world he wasn't tied to the Russians, so he ended the treaty that started to put an end to the Cold War and started to have those missiles aimed at Russia. For what? To prove to Hillary Clinton that he's not tied with Russia? I mean, what the hell? But Scott Ritter, I mean, you know, there's been horrible allegations made about Scott Ritter, and I'm not going to go into them because I think that that's been based on his criticism of the U.S.-Iraq war. It's based on his criticism of U.S. foreign policy. I just think it stands to reasons. I met him at Rage Against the War Machine when I went there in Washington back in February. Met him in person at the event sponsored by Center for Political Innovation, and he's a nice person. He's a very nice person. Talked to him for a few minutes, and he came on my show about a month later, and so. And that was a really great interview. It was one of the best interviews I've had on my show as guests. Actually, the closest thing I had to a viral video. I had over 5,000 views up there. So thank you, Scott Ritter. But he's on the kill list, and he shouldn't be. Nobody should be, actually. Another person that's made it on this kill list, controversial, and she's been controversial since 2016, and that's former Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard. And you know why is she on the kill list? Because for some reason people think that she is some kind of goddamn asset of the Russian government. She's an asset of Iran. She's an asset of Bashar al-Assad of Syria. I mean, and she's hated by all people from all sides. You still got neocons in one area that thinks that she's some kind of unhinged tanky, and then you got people on another area. You got the shit libs that think that she's some kind of neocon, born again neocon. I mean, and she gets it kind of from all sides, and she does confuse the hell out of me sometimes. I do admit, and tell you the truth, sometimes I don't even know which direction she thinks she's going into. I wanted her in 2020 to be Bernie Sanders' running mate when I did believe in Bernie Sanders. And that was those days are gone, folks. but I just, I don't really take Bernie Sanders all that seriously anymore. Um, but the point is that she's been very critical of this war in the Ukraine, and she's been critical from day one. A very loud opponent of U.S. interventionism in the Ukraine, this proxy war. And she's been warning since her presidential run in 2019, 2020 about this nuclear arms race that's going on and what it could mean. And people just sit there and write her off. And one area she's not wrong is she's not wrong in most foreign policy areas. She is not wrong when it comes to foreign policy. I may disagree with her. There's no might being disagree. I disagree with her about some of the issues, some of her socially conservative positions on the transgender women in sports and things of that nature and all of that. And her kind of sharing a platform with Matt Walsh. And I disagree with her passionately on those things. And I hope that she will evolve and move away from that. I really do. But while she's wrong on those issues, and I mean she is very wrong on those issues, she is correct when it comes to foreign policy. Because if we have a nuclear war, there's not going to be a debate about trans individuals versus about whether they ought to have civil rights or not if the human race is extinct. And I think it's wrong that she's on a kill list. I think it's wrong that anybody's on a kill list. So there is also that. So and as I said, all the people I'm mentioning here that's on the kill list, it's not the entire kill list. It is just partial. I'm just giving you some of the names that are on the kill list to let you know how absurd it is that such a list exists. Glenn Greenwald is also on the kill list. He's on this kill list because he's also highly critical of the war in the Ukraine. And I remembered a couple of weeks, maybe about a month and a half, 2 months ago, David Pakman getting angry with me on Twitter when he criticized Glenn Greenwald and Tulsi Gabbard and agree with the notion that they were somehow Russian agents. And I basically said, this is why I stopped watching his show. And he said, well, you stopped watching my show because of people getting very uneasy about Glenn Greenwald and Tulsi Gabbard's position on the Russia. I'm paraphrasing what he said. Well, you do you. That's what he said to me. So I think he was kind of a little irritated. I wasn't really mad at him, but it was kind of funny the way he said it. I don't have to tweet, but it was kind of funny how he responded. So I was just like, oh, whatever. So, again, we're talking about a list of people that, nobody really should be on this kill list. There should not be a kill list, but I'm just stating this as much because I think that people need to know how absurd it is. Chancellor Gerhard Schroeder. Now, if y'all don't know who Gerhard Schroeder is, he's the former chancellor of the German Federal Republic, Germany. There I am in a Cold War mindset referring to it as West Germany. Oh my gosh. The German Federal Republic. This guy is no radical in the least. When he was the chancellor of Germany in the 1990s and throughout prior to the election of Angela Merkel, he governed as a centrist, very much unfortunately, as much of a centrist in the way that Tony Blair governed the UK. The one critical difference is that he was better on foreign policy than Tony Blair. And so because he is critical of the police action and the proxy war by the U.S. and NATO in the Ukraine, the Myrotvorets were not too keen on this, and he's been also placed on the kill list. He might be maybe the least controversial person of all the people I'm mentioning tonight on that kill list. The next person we will talk about is you know him on the online. Don't know if he's the online left anymore. I don't know if he's a conservative. I don't know where he stands politically these days. But Jackson Hinkle. And Jackson Hinkle just got put on the kill list a couple of months ago for being critical of the war. Now, I know that when it comes to the foreign policy thing, he is correct. In fact, I saw a video where he talked about Ron DeSantis with regard to Ukraine, and Jackson Hinkle was correct when he said that basically Ron DeSantis is basically a blending of George W. Bush and his younger brother, Jeb Bush. He's got the policies of George W. Bush and the charisma of Jeb Bush. And that would describe Ron DeSantis. And he would be correct on that. But anyway, suffice to say, they really have a target on him too at this point. So he's another one that's been put on the kill list. Another person that was been put on the kill list would be let's see here. Well, you all know who he is, the bass player for Pink Floyd, Roger Waters, and he gets a lot of shit from a lot of folks these days. I mean, why? Because his allows of strong support for the Palestinians and his opposition to a war has kind of put him, in an area where he's been accused of things he's not guilty of. And I will say this, and I'll say it again: being supportive of the Palestinians and being critical of Israel's actions against Palestinians does not make you anti-Semitic. I'm going to make that clear. And he would not criticize Israel. He would not criticize Israelis if they were not persecuting, if the government were not persecuting the Palestinian population. Stop persecuting the Palestinian population, people will stop criticizing the state of Israel. It's as simple as that. There's nothing anti-Semitic about stating that. Now, somebody wants to go and hate on Israel because they hate Jewish people. Well, I'll tell such people to fuck off. But if you're going to go criticize Israel because they're persecuting Palestinians, that's a legitimate criticism, and there's nothing anti-Semitic about that. Not one bit. So I just think that needs to be clarified whenever people start throwing around the accusations like they do at Roger Waters, like they do at Jeremy Corbyn or whomever. They even throw it at people who are Jewish, like Bernie Sanders, or people like Noam Chomsky or Norman Finkelstein and some of these other folks who are supportive of the Palestinian cause. They get accused of this sort of thing. And they need to be called out, these right-wingers. And a lot of these right-wingers are usually, Christian types who are anti-Semitic themselves. So that's also the dirty little secret there. Let's see here. Let's add some more people to this discussion here. We will, I mentioned earlier, Aaron Matei from the Gray Zone is also just been added to this list, and I talked about that in the beginning. And much respect for his cavalier attitude about being on the kill list. I'd be worried myself. I would. So another person that was added to the kill list was also from the Gray Zone, includes Anya Parampil. And folks, I do apologize for butchering the name. I cannot pronounce her name to save my life correctly. But Anya Parampel has also been added to the list, and she's also with the Gray Zone. So, and I'm surprised I haven't heard anything about Wyatt Reed or Max Blumenthal or ex-Gray Zone people or persons like Ben Norton being added to the list or anything like that. Which is, I'm kind of surprised because I think that even with Ben Norton's parting ways with the Gray Zone, I think that everybody's on the same page about the Russian-Ukraine situation there. So, and hopefully nobody, hopefully the list will get taken down. As I said, it's the one website I want shut down. So, let's see. I've heard, and I need clarification, but I've actually heard that George Galloway was added to the list, but I'm not sure about that. For those who don't know, and I think most people in my audience know who George Galloway, who he is. He's the former British Labour Party MP that was kicked out of the Labour Party in 2003 for his opposition to the Iraq War. And he ran as an independent in 2005 and won in the Bethnal Green constituency in London. Actually, it's kind of an interesting place. If anybody's ever been to North Carolina, it reminds you of the city of Durham. If you ever walk through the Bethnal Green area of London, it's like Durham, North Carolina, but safer. Anyway, suffice to say, he's been very critical of the war, the U.S. NATO police action in that's been going on. Also, he's the host of Moats, the mother of all talk shows. Highly recommended. Highly recommended. So anyway, always great to listen to George Galloway with his Scottish accent and everything. So let's see here. We have also on the as I said, I'm not sure if he's on the list. I try to find the actual list, but I always find like partial names on lists and all of that. So Bashir al-Assad of Syria has also been added on the list, and I'm going to be very controversial here. I support Assad of Syria. It's not because I think he's a swell guy. It's because if Assad is taken down, if his government collapses, you can bet your beetle boots that anything is going to be replacing the Assad government. It's going to be 100 times worse. Look what happened when Hillary Clinton, when she said, we came and what was it? We went there, we came, and he came down in Libya. I forgot how the phrase went, but she took credit for Gaddafi's government collapsing. And then there was a time that I used to think that Gaddafi was an actual bad guy. And the more I read up on Gaddafi, the more I actually have admiration for him. And I am going to be doing a video soon on Gaddafi, and I'm going to refer to Gaddafi as Africa's Tito. Because that's kind of how I see the late Muammar Gaddafi. So anyway, but Bashir al-Assad protects religious minorities in Syria. He protects the Christians. He protects the Jewish people. He protects secularists. He even protects the Muslims from different factions of the Muslims out there. He protects all these folks from the ISIS and the Al-Qaedas and all the fundamentalists that wants to come in there and oppress. And I never thought I would find myself agreeing with Pat Buchanan on anything, but years ago, Pat Buchanan was interviewed by Sean Hannity, and he talked about this in an interview, and Sean Hannity, which is like he looked like he was about to have a meltdown because, let's face it, Sean Hannity's basically the only way he can get his limp little penis to get an erection is to be on the side of the U.S. flexing its military muscle around the world, and he did not like what Pat Buchanan had to say, and in that regard. So, here's the thing. With regard to Assad. Assad. Again, you don't have to like the guy, but when John Bolton is going around urging the U.S. and urging the rest of the West to back Al Qaeda to bring down Assad, who's going to be wrong, and it's not going to be Assad. It's going to be John Bolton. John Bolton could let me put it this way. I could walk outside and John Bolton can be there, and the sky will be a bright, a bright turquoise, beautiful day. It would just be just a blue sky, clear, 68 degrees, because anything over 70 degrees is too hot for me. 68 degrees and everything, pleasant day you can imagine. And John Bolton will be saying two things. He could be like, well, the sky is clear out there. It's a crystal blue, clear sky. And the Beatles were a very popular group in the 1960s. Because it came out of John Bolton's mouth, I would have to take a look and see if the fucking sky is really blue. And I'm going to have to see if this was a big lie, if the Beatles were a thing in the 1960s. That's how much I would doubt John Bolton. So to make things as a clarification there. So let me go ahead and continue here. John Bolton makes my blood pressure go through the roof. So let's go on with Rand Paul, Senator Rand Paul. I mentioned him earlier. Not a fan of him on domestic policy, like economics. So things of that nature. Depending on the social issue, he takes some basic social conservative positions that's expected of Republicans. So that I don't agree with, but he has some issues domestically that will surprise you. When it comes to criminal justice and racial profiling by law enforcement, believe it or not, he has positions that almost sounds like some moderate positions from, I think most positions are moderate from Black Lives Matter, but you get my point. He has positions that may not sound all that different from somebody from Black Lives Matter, like when it comes to police, like the police getting military shit from the Pentagon, that sort of thing, and he's actually inching toward opposition toward capital punishment. He has come as close to saying I oppose the death penalty as anybody on the Republican side from the U.S. Senate I have ever heard anyone saying. And I know that his father, Ron Paul, is on record of being opposed to capital punishment now these days. So he's critical of the war, and very much so. And they have put him on the kill list. So let's see here. Let me check here, and we will tell you who else is on the. Well, I'll tell you the probably the worst person that's on the kill list, in my view, would be Alexander Dugin, who is kind of a fascist for what I've read about him, and so I'm not particularly keen on Alexander Dugin, but at the same time, Alexander Dugin, I don't think anybody should be on a kill list. That's my point. And Alexander Dugin was an anti-Soviet dissident during the days of the Soviet Union, and he's got some questionable beliefs about you know, about he's kind of a religious. He's sort of like a Russian version of the TV evangelicals with a political ideology, but not for America, but for Russia in Russia, but as a Russian Orthodox, um, and not beating up in the Orthodox Church, but I'm just saying that he's sort of that version of it, and he sort of has this kind of apocalyptic view that Russia is the Western civilization beacon against what he considers, the other around the world. And there's a little bit of, there's sometimes what I feel like are like anti-Semitic themes that he plays around with and all of that. So I've been kind of dubious of Alexander Dugin. Now, should he be on a kill list? Again, nobody should be on a kill list. Even actual, we're talking about somebody who might be as bad of an actor in a different way than someone like Henry Kissinger. Should he be on a kill list? No, nobody should be on a kill list. But speaking of Alexander Dugin, his daughter, Daria Dugina, was killed last year in Moscow. And my understanding was that the bomb was intended toward Alexander Dugin, but they happened to get her instead. I don't know if she was on the kill list, but here's the thing about it. Anybody who makes it on the kill list and then they are actually killed, their website will put a red mark through their face in a pic and say liquidated. And that's what it comes down to. And again, I'm not sure whether it is hosted here in the US in Langley, or that's just something they're saying to troll people. But if it is hosted here in the US, that needs to be, we should demand for that thing to be shut down. I don't think it's too much to demand. We should demand for Myrotvorets to be shut down and should not be permitted. Because, we're talking about a website that actually promotes killing people based on political differences. And I have a very serious problem with that. I really do. So, and so anyway, I wanted to talk about this because I don't really hear a lot of discussions. Well, I do hear it. On the online left a little bit, but I don't really hear it so much broadly speaking. And it needs to be addressed more, I think. So let's see, we have here on the chat line, and I have to go in a minute because I do have to go to work tonight. But so right now we have Snipe Hunter and thank you but once again I'm glad that the audio is working now online, so I'm glad that got taken care of. Appreciate it. Let's see here. All right. Okay. All right. And he said I was very welcome. Let's see here. John Bolton and George W. Bush are the new punk rock. Yeah. That was referring to the Pussy Riot comments I made earlier. Very much so. Yep. Same as TERFs. Yeah, with regard to the some of the attitudes over there, and with regard to the anti-LGBTQ attitudes in Eastern Europe. Yep. So let's see. Bolton, Bush, or TERFs completely Bolton, Bush, and TERFs all completely suck. Agreed. Let's see. Kahneman, do you think the U.S. government should send aid to the Ukraine? Not at all. Not at all. Not one bit. Not 1 cent. In fact, I'm absolutely I'm absolutely angry that the problems we have here in the United States economically. We can't have Build Back Better, but we're going to go and send money to fund indirectly fund neo-Nazis in the Ukraine, but we can't provide medical care for people here in the United States, or provide cheaper drugs here in the United States, but we're going to give money to neo-Nazis in the Ukraine. I'm absolutely angry about that. Arafat Napka says, yes. Hey, how are you doing today? Anthony Malecki says he's also on Epstein's list. I think you're referring to Noam Chomsky. Yep, yes, you were. That I didn't know until recently. Hey, Warren, how are you? Let's see. Ooh, summer cuts. Yeah, I decided to get a haircut. It was time for me to do it. So, let's see. Bush 1G said, Sky, hey, what's up? Hey, what's up? Let's see here. All right. Let's see what we got here. Warren says, I'm not on the kill list, but I'm banned from 2 Waffle Houses in the Muscle Shoals, Alabama. Never been banned from a Waffle House. But I almost got kicked out of a Denny's once. I was drunk and belligerent at a party, after a party, and so a bunch of people got mad at me. I was very loud and long story. Tell them about the Titty Mountain. Oh yeah, Titty Mountain. When I was on Extra Booyah several months ago, I can't wait for it to come back on the air, by the way. Hint, hint, wink, wink. When I was up there, we were talking about North Carolina and talking about Mayberry. And Mayberry is in Mount Airy, North Carolina. And I happened to mention that if you're driving, it's like north of Winston-Salem. So if you're driving north of Winston-Salem, you'll see Pilot Mountain. They call it Mount Pilot on Andy Griffith, which was a town in the Andy Griffith Show, but it was named after Pilot Mountain. Pilot Mountain is an actual mountain just before you get to Virginia, and it looks like a humongous breast with a little nipple on top. And that's what I think of every time I go and drive by Pilot Mountain in North Carolina. And so, yes, absolutely. And so me and Warren, we had a big old laugh about it when I was on his show. So, yeah, thank you for the memories about that, Warren. That was pretty funny when you brought it up. Damn, you got to get, Anthony says, damn, you got to do some serious shit to get banned from there. Yep, yeah, oh yeah. Let's see. I tell you that, but my lawyer has me on a gag order, so. Ooh, you're going to have to share that story with us sometime, Warren. Let's see here. The Great Waffle House War with Jelly Roll, said Arafat. Yep. Let's see. Gag order is my name on OnlyFans. Oh, so many ways to interpret that. Funny. I'm just kidding. Raging Willy is my spirit animal. All right. Let's see what we got here. We're all probably on the same kind of Langley list. Well, who knows? I think that the way that surveillance goes, I think everybody's on a list for everything, for whatever. Because we're all monitored. We're all monitored right down to our keystrokes. So really, if you think about it, even our most private thoughts are almost monitored. Because, it's kind of, people should really think about this sort of thing, and we should demand for it to come to a stop. People should have their privacy, and they should not stand for their privacy being compromised. So, let's see. I was there for the Denny incident. Let's see. I've seen a lot of incidents at Denny's over the years. So, anyway, folks, I'm going to log off very soon because unfortunately, even though I'm off on Saturday nights as a general rule, I have to go to work tonight. So that's very unfortunate, but that's okay. On the upside is that until the secret show gets back on the air, I mean, it won't matter. So if Warren could tell us when, Warren, if you're there, could you tell us when the secret show will be back on the air? That'll be great to know. Is I do miss the secret show. So I know you've been busy with your work and all that too. So yeah, so I'm going to work right now as soon as I log off. But I will make it a quick announcement. Tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Jimmy Sutherland from KRTD Media will be here on my program. We're gonna do our monthly Sunday night politics, and so we're gonna do our show. And then after that, we'll just I don't she's kind of taking a break right now from things, but we'll go ahead and we're gonna do a show together because it's been a while since we collaborated and all that. So I'm looking forward to doing that as well. And so let me see what else is going on. Pride Month is coming up in June, so I'm gonna have my usual guests. I have like once a week. I try to have a guest on once a week usually. But what I'm also going to do is I'm also going to try to also have guests on my show. So I'm going to probably have more guests than usual. So I'm going to try to have on guests from the LGBTQ movement, from the community, to discuss their experience and how it relates to the movement for equality and what can be done to put a stop to the what seems like a movement to reverse the strides that they have made over the years. So doing that in commemoration for Pride Month. So there's that. Also, there's another announcement going on right now. I'm trying to think. There was something else I was going to share with y'all, but for some reason it's escaped my mind. But I guess I'll say it again. I'll let y'all know later on. But I'll be back with y'all all next week here on the Saturday night feature here on the Willy Bragg Show at 9:00, presumably. So we'll be doing that, and I want to let you know that if you like what you heard, press like and comment because it helps with the algorithms, and feel free to share the content on this channel. As the First Amendment absolutist, it's my duty to inform you to create your own platform and utilize it because we are, in fact, the muckrakers of our time. Also, in addition, we need to go and do this thing like subscribe to my channel. If you're not subscribed to my channel, go ahead and subscribe to my channel here on YouTube and hit the notification bell. And do the same thing. Follow me on Twitch, Facebook, and Twitter. Follow me on Rumble. Follow me on all the appropriate platforms there is. So, wait a minute. Oh, wait. Okay, I got the announcement. June 10th. June 10th. The secret show will be back on June 10th. That is good to know. Thank you. So, all right. I needed to know that because when I do the show, I always like to tell everyone to go and to log on to Extra Booyah and watch this show. So we're all there for each other. We got to sit there and support each other because they're trying to do what they can to shut us all down because they since Google bought out YouTube and all that, they're just trying to make sure that voices like our voice get shut out of the system and get shut out of the debate, and they want to keep everything sanitized and turn YouTube and turn everything else, Facebook and everything else, into basically TV for the internet. And we all came here to the internet to get away from the slop that was on TV. So always reject corporate media, corporate entertainment, corporate whatever. Watch everything with a critical eye. Question everything. And until next time, I'm Willy Bragg. I will see you all again. Take care. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.